Pelican Bay State Prison SHU, Security Housing Unit. California's toughest and most secure lockup. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today I want to talk about Pelican Bay. I've done a lot of videos on Pelican Bay. Majority of my time in the California Department of Corrections was between Pelican Bay and New Folsom. But Pelican Bay, for a lot of people, has this aura, this mystique, this legendary status. And it's because of the SHU, the Security Housing Unit. It's because of that place, who was housed there, why it was built, things that were directed from there. I mean, it was the hub of the criminal world for California and other parts of the nation. It is basically, or was basically, the MIT, Oxford, Harvard, Princeton, whatever university you think of as the highest learning university in the world. That's what Pelican Bay was for the criminal world. Once you got there, you were going to be honed into a weapon if you had the abilities. If you didn't, then you may be told you are a weapon, but you're just a pawn. That's a different story. I've heard people say erroneously that, oh, them vatos go to the SHU and once they get there, they're safe. And I wonder where they were, where they did time, who they were around to regurgitate such bullshit. I want to briefly touch on a period that was probably Pelican Bay SHU's deadliest period. And that would be 1996 into 1997. Again, this is the SHU. I'm not talking about A yard or B yard, A facility or B facility, which were the main lines. I'm talking about C and D facilities, the SHU, where it was built to house, I believe it was 1,500 men. And they say it was the worst of the worst. I will say it was the hardest of the hard. I don't know about the worst of the worst. How do you designate that? When guys are coming from other places to that place, there must be some really bad guys in other places just waiting to take a bunk, right? But in 1996 into the beginning of 1997, there was a string of murders inside of the SHU where guys that have never been there and, you know, like to talk about, the Bay ain't shit. The Bay ain't shit. There was a string of murders. And it got to the point where that is when the CDC decided that inmates, or convicts, I should say, that were validated could no longer have cellies. I remember being in the SHU, and out of nowhere, they would just come in and look in the cells of certain groups to make sure both dudes were still alive. I remember that because of people being removed from Earth in the SHU, guys would land and wouldn't get their property for months because the officers were busy searching cells, doing pod raids, investigating homicides. So guys were in there with nothing for a long time, reliant on those that were in the pod with them. Pelican Bay was a complete mindfuck. The SHU, I'm talking about the SHU. The SHU was a complete mind game. If you were not mentally strong, you weren't going to make it there. I'm not going to get into who and all that, but I'm going to tell you there were groups that when they were in other joints and they caught their shoe term before they even saw committee, they would get on triple CMS, meaning they needed mental help. They would come out once a week or once every 30 days, whatever it is they got to do, and talk to a psychologist and get on certain psych meds, because that in itself kept them away from Pelican Bay. And then we'd go to Corcoran Shoe and hang out and get the sunshine. You know, get to interact with other people. Basically just be an ad seg. Go from one ad seg to another. But once you went to Pelican Bay, you knew when you exited that bus, you were in a different place. There's a lot of people that they hear me talk about Pelican Bay and they hear the way I'm describing Pelican Bay, and because they were never there, they're like, man, fuck Dubs. The Bay ain't shit. Prison ain't shit. Prison ain't shit when it comes to society. But if you were behind them walls and you were really doing shit, you were going to Pelican Bay. That's the bottom line. And I don't talk about it in order to have a pissing contest. I was there 4 different times. It's not a badge of honor. It's a badge of stupidity for me. I told the story my first time getting there. My cellie and I got off the bus. We both had come from New Folsom. And after we did the whole thing of, you know, sitting up there and visiting our law library, waiting to be housed, you know, getting stripped out, all that. And we hit our cell. And back then you had to go to C1. And then from C1, that was basically orientation. They would send you out to another unit. When we got in the cell, they had uncuffed us and the cops walked off. My cellie put his hands on his hips. And this dude was about 10 years older than me. He put his hands on his hips. And he's like, Pelican Bay. And I could see that he was in awe. And I knew the guy, so I told him, man, shut the fuck up. But that's what it did to certain people. Apparently, that's what it does to a lot of people on the streets, because they hear again of the mystique. They don't understand the shoe is where the guys you think about, they were housed in a shoe. They were caged up. They were bottled up. Physically. But their voice went anywhere they wanted. And it was very dangerous. Nowadays, the shoe houses, I believe, level 1s or level 2s. I've seen pictures where there's actually a TV in the day room and people are smiling. When I was in the shoe, yeah, we laughed. But there was always that thing in the air. Pelican Bay shoe, it was almost as if there was pressure in the air. There was more gravity almost, it felt like, in the shoe. You had people in the shoe who were never supposed to get out of the shoe. Now they're out. But back then, nobody was getting out. And so they were plotting on their enemies, their rivals, always the ones within their own faction. They were trying to come up with new ways every day to generate income. New ways to move dope in, move dope around. New ways to get into other cities, other states. It was a place of extreme hostility, hate, and I hate to admit it, envy. I've never been envious of another man, but I was in situations where it was obvious others were envious of me. And I was a nobody. I've said before, I had positions of authority, but all I was doing was wielding someone else's power. I always knew that. Other people got it mixed up and thought it was their power they were wielding. And then they failed because of it. But I was talking to somebody about it, and I was telling them about all the murders. And I don't want to get into all the murders. This was something that I talked about off camera, in private, and how some people were told if they committed a homicide against their cellmate, that would be their way in. And then when they went through with it, everybody involved was like, I don't know why he did it. That Vato did it on his own. And by me saying Vato, don't assume you know which group I'm talking about. Those that were there know. But Pelican Bay Shoe, they didn't have the war that Corcoran had because there was no group yard. They didn't have the human rooster fights, gladiator days, no. The fact that you could get fresh air and you went out to the yard and got busy, you did that on the main line. When you went to Pelican Bay Shoe and you were served food that was boiled or steamed so that it took away the flavor and took away your sense of taste, and you're in there and it's quieter than a church, so they take away your sense of hearing. You don't have a cellmate, to shake his hand, give him a bump, and hey, what's up, Holmes? So take away your sense of feel. They were trying to remove every sense from us, the quicker to drive you insane. I'm glad Pelican Bay Shoe was shut down. I'm glad everyone's out there. I'm glad that the CDC has offered new incentives to program. More self-help, more vocations, more education. Us in society need them in there to find their personal value, their personal self-worth. Understand that they mean something. Because when a person realizes they mean something, that's when they realize the next man means something. 80% of those incarcerated, they get released back into the community, our communities. Somebody left a comment on my video yesterday and said that I should be rotting in prison. I should have never got out because I killed somebody. Whenever I get those comments, I always answer back. Keep that same energy when it's your son. Keep that same energy when it's anybody in your family. Tell them go fuck themselves, that they can never change. I don't know how old all you are that are watching this, but however old you are right now, you're not the same person you were 10 years ago. Anybody judging me that harshly, remember, guys like me get out. Fortunately for you, I am fully rehabilitated. But have it your way. Take away all the programming. 80% still go home. And if one runs into you, don't be mad at him that you wanted him to remain a monster. That's my video for today, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out of here.